This unassuming flower growing on a farm in central Queensland could bloom into a new agricultural industry. It's sesame, and these trial rows have been planted to help create a spice sector in northern Australia.
It's just so exciting. It's so exciting to see a new opportunity, particularly for growers in the north. People are always looking for something new to try, and we won't know if it works until we've had a really good go at trialling everything, but the early signs are really promising.
4 years ago, a research team from CQ University, led by Tineke Trotter, planted several crops new to Australia, before narrowing it down to the best performers: black and white sesame, fennel and kalonji. They planted on farms throughout Queensland, the Northern Territory and Western Australia. Aaron Kiley's farm at Emerald in Queensland is the most southern, with the sesame planted among fields of cotton.
Sesame is really well suited to here, so it likes the really hot environments. It thrives in quite hot environments. It can also thrive quite well on low moisture. So as long as we've got moisture at key times, and that's really around crop establishment, but it's also around grain filling, so that seed filling time, we tend to be able to achieve reasonable yields.
Sesame has a reputation for being a labour-intensive crop, as wild, shattering varieties are generally hand-harvested.
So a shattering sesame line is one that, when it matures, the pods open and it releases the seed. So that's more of a wild type and potentially an older type of genetic, where the plant was less about cropping and more about surviving in an environment. The non-shattering lines are lines that have been selected over time to help them to be able to be harvested more easily. So a shattering line, when a harvester hits it, even if you are going at a slow pace, with all the settings right and potentially even with blowers trying to blow seed in, it can create significant losses.
Trials started with shattering sesame, but now the team has non-shattering lines, developed overseas and licensed in Australia by seed company Agriventus Technologies.
So we now have non-shattering varieties, and the genetics we've got now, there's over 12 different varieties we've now brought into Australia, and we're doing all the trials and testing throughout the whole of North Australia.
The comparative ease of harvesting was demonstrated at a recent field day. Pests and wet weather hampered the first few sesame harvests, but perseverance has paid off, with enough data being collated to soon share with growers interested in planting the crop.
We are starting to get our heads around when to plant the crop, how to manage it in season, what the planting depths and densities should be.
For growers like Aaron Kiley, he needs to know how it could complement his other crops.
There's a great group working together, so it's just seeing where these yields can be, how many hectares we would require, and see if it fits into our farming system, to benefit the region.
But he does think sesame is worth considering.
I think it'd be more a rotation crop. You'd fit it into your system and see what the benefits are going forward. Yeah, unless there is a great market for it that could move in, say, to the inland port, or could be exported out of this region, or based throughout Australia.
The quality of the crop is being examined in the lab.
What we're doing here is we're passing the biomass product into the thresher, and the seed will come out of the pods and separate the pods and the seed.
So we're at the next stage, which is cleaning. So what happens here?
This is the next step in the process that you'd find in any harvester. The seed will travel through a number of different sieves. Some of the particles, the larger particles, will drop lower, the heavier biomass particles. The dust gets blown out with the fans, and we end up with a much cleaner seed sample at the end. We turn the seed into oil so that we can assess some of the different qualities of the seed. We would like to understand how the seed is performing in the different geographical areas across Australia. And we also like to be able to understand which are the best varieties to be growing in different areas.
And what qualities are you looking for?
So there's a few qualities that we test for in the lab. With the whole seed, we're looking at the size of the seed, how much oil is in each seed, so the percentage of oil content. We look at the moisture content of the seed as well. And then we assess for things like the colour, and we select different varieties based on their visual appearance as well.
With no commercial quantities of Australian-grown sesame, bakeries rely on imported product. That could change as soon as next year, with small volumes of local commercial seed becoming available. It's predicted to cost around $2,400 a tonne, the same price as premium imported sesame.
And we've also had looking at developing the market first, so we have to have a market to sell into, and that's what we're developing over the next 12 months. Is a local market first, because we import 100% of sesame. So we want to basically target that market first. It's about $8 million to $10 million market in Australia, and then look at the export market the year after. So a lot of the market currently is with sesame oil and also confectionery, companies that use sesame in the confectionery, bakery markets for the bread and rolls and pastries. But there's also nutraceutical industries and pharmaceutical industries that use sesame and sesame oils.
Back in the field, trials in the Northern Territory are in their second year, but convincing growers to plant sesame crops there could be a hurdle.
We do have a lot of wild sesame that was potentially brought over earlier on and has now kind of gone a bit crazy, and there's a stigma around it being a weed, and I think that's just simply because it's a shattering line of sesames. It is a very interesting crop, and I think the more we get into it, the more we look at it and see where we can diversify it a little bit into our normal crops up in the NT. We predominantly do hay and cotton at the moment, so seeing where it kind of fits in with everything will be really interesting as well.
Research and Development Corporation AgriFutures is working to expand the number of sesame trial sites.
Just run your fingers.
Not quite to Victoria, but certainly northern New South Wales and some southern New South Wales. It really likes the hot, dry climate, and that's where in Queensland can be grown over summer, such as in central Queensland, and even grown over winter where it's still warm enough and dry season to grow in northern Queensland.
While Australian-grown sesame may be ready for the domestic market as early as 2025, there's still more work to be done in the lab and at trial sites before it can reach full-scale commercial production.
I think like any crop, there's always something more to learn and to help and to develop and assist growers, and that's what's really exciting about being able to be part of an emerging industry research program, the Port. So we hope that as we find new challenges that we can be involved in helping to solve those problems for the sesame industry and for other emerging spice industries as well.